And we are live. So happy Thursday morning, everyone. I hope all is well. Today we've got the awesome Mr. Dan Allen on the call. Dan has just a couple of weeks back, finished up with us in the 1% Blueprint, and he's kindly taken 20, 25 minutes out of his day to talk through his experiences and what it's been like working with us. Hopefully you get some key learnings and insights. I'll hand over to Dan just initially. Dan, do you want to introduce yourself, who you are, what do you do?
Yeah, thanks, Luke. I'm a middle-aged man, I guess, who's just finished the 1%. I'm an accountant, work in the city centre of Birmingham. Similar to a lot, married with one kid, and was just short of time, really. So Luke's helped me with that.
Awesome. So let's kind of dig right into it. We had an initial conversation, a few months back now, maybe sort of 3-4 months ago. I think you'd possibly seen a post of maybe one of your colleagues or something else, had gone through the process. What was going on with you back then? Like, what was your motivation for getting in touch and having a conversation?
Yeah, it was just, I think it's hard to remember about that far now, but the main thing was I was really struggling with just not having enough time to do things. I was just getting to the office earlier and earlier to try and keep on top of work. The conflict between work, home life, trying to fit everything in that I want to do in a day, and feeling like I was just letting everyone down, to be honest, all day. And therefore, getting to the end of that, time for me was pretty much zero at that point, because just trying to satisfy everyone else, and just really struggling with that. I guess didn't want to continue that. A few things with my wife and stuff like that as well. Mentioned things need to change, and just wanted to do something positive about it. So I saw a post from my colleague, and then got in touch with you, Luke, and really went from there.
Awesome. And I think where you were at, Dan, not to belittle your situation, but I think unfortunately it's a very common narrative for lots of guys out there, right? And I think it's materially, work-wise, successful and working really hard to provide and support your family and all the good stuff that comes with that. But more often than not, we can end up sacrificing our own physical and mental well-being at the altar of that. And then because you're so busy and you've got so much on, you get stuck in a bit of a trap where it's like, well, I cognitively know I need to do something about this, but I ain't got enough fucking time. And so how can I make enough time to make this happen? And then because you don't make it happen, you feel bad about yourself, and you just get stuck in these loops where you want to do something, but it's kind of hard to move out of that. Is that sort of a fair summary, or does that resonate?
Yeah, it's absolutely that. And then it's not like anything was going disastrously wrong either. So it wasn't like things were falling apart at the seams. Probably from people looking the outside in, maybe say it was going fine, absolutely. Everything was under control, etc. So it wasn't like there was any major issues from that. And I was managing to keep on top of stuff. It was just a feeling of want to do something better, I guess, and do it in a different way was the key thing.
I think that's it. Like, you didn't say this, but something I hear a lot on some calls is like, I'm not depressed, but like if that's the barometer, it's not like there's anything on fire. There's no like crisis, but equally knowing that it can be better and you want it to be better. And I think it's being in that place, right?
Yeah, exactly that.
Awesome. So let's fast forward then to today. What have been your, I guess, key achievements, successes, having gone through the process? And we can dig into the process a little bit first. But like what are you, I guess, best pleased with, and what have you achieved having come out the other end from where you were?
Yeah, it's definitely a mindset thing. I think not beating myself up about different things is a big key change. I feel like I've got more time than I did before. So I've magic time from somewhere in the magic of the day, or Luke's helping magic some time. But feel on top of stuff. I want to do stuff, so kind of want to go to the gym in the morning, want to do things before I get into my working day, and I feel disappointed if I don't do those sorts of things as well. Although it's not the end of the world, but that wasn't where I was 12 weeks ago, or a little over 12 weeks ago. And just better in work, better off for people around me, more positive, and things improving as well at home life. So all great.
Awesome. Well, ultimately that's what we want. So let's dig into some of that. I think an interesting one to go on is the time one, right? Because like you said, when we first spoke, you felt like you didn't have enough time, and then all of a sudden it feels like you got more time. And again, the time one is a narrative that literally everyone I speak to, and I'm also guilty of it. Like, saying I haven't got enough time, I'm too busy. What has helped you magic this extra time? Where's it come from? What do you think you've done or we've done to help that happen?
So there was no magic button, I guess, that suddenly, there was some magic cure on week one that you created and looked at my diary and said, here you go, here's a load of time. Because that definitely wasn't the case. And I'm sure no one could find that time. I think it's just the mindset for everything you're achieving in the day, and all those little marginal gains of everything you learn for the program all adding up to create benefits in different ways, and probably being a bit more selfish with my time as well is key. Mm-hmm. So, but all that adds up into being able to do better, etc., and then creates the time. So it's those little things. I wouldn't say there's one thing that's changed everything, but little gains on everything, every single meeting, etc., every single interaction. I think at the end of it gains time and having more energy as well. So.
Yeah, I think that's it. It's, you know, you're the sum product of your daily actions, habits, behaviours, and choices, and those sort of little things all add up, and they can all add up in a very positive sense, but they can also add up in a more negative sense. And I think if I could click my fingers and give everyone an extra 5 hours a day, I'd be a billionaire, right? But unfortunately,
yeah, exactly. You wouldn't be talking to me, that's
do
for sure.
that.
You wouldn't need to.
Yeah, exactly. So, but I think, and I think the thing is, and what you're saying there is a common thing that comes out people at the back of it. It's like, well, I've got time I didn't see that, but I think we do things and we have habits and behaviours in our life that maybe aren't serving us, that we're not necessarily aware of, or we're not aware of the actual impact that has, or then that can cascade in other areas. So then all of a sudden, if you can address those and look at that and put other things in place, it frees up pockets that you didn't necessarily realise were there. And I think there's also more, you can get more out of what you need to do with less. And when you do that, that also then gives you more headspace and breathing space. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely that. And yeah, on reflection, I don't think I could nail the one thing that's created that time at all. There's not a solution. It's just you've got to work through it, and then all of that adds up to the cumulative outcome, I guess, at the end of it.
Nice. And then what? So the timepiece is a big one. And you said that you've been able to be sort of, I think you used the words, you know, better with the team, better at home, more present. Like, what do you think? And it's probably going to be a similar answer, but I'll ask you anyway. What has helped you get to that state, that more positive mindset? What's fostered that?
I think just building those routines. It sounds boring, I guess, in some ways now, but building those routines every day, daily habits, helps you get to that state of mind. Changing the mindset, having some time for myself, feeling like a sense of achievement at the end of the day, and not having that. You know, I've still got a big to-do list. Don't get me wrong, but not having that list at the end of the day of not feeling accomplished, it massively changes your mindset. I think just being thankful for everything around you a bit more has a massive impact.
Yeah, I think when I guess if you're trying to take care of yourself, right, and you're floundering and you keep trying to do things and then they don't happen, that's not great for your self-esteem, right? And it knocks and cascades in a negative way. If you've got things in your day that you've done and you've achieved, and even if the day's been a shit show, work's gone ballistic, you get home and the kids are going bananas, but there's things that you've done for yourself that you said you were going to do and you've committed to doing, well, you can't control the craziness of the day, but you've been in control of your internal state and what you need to do. And sometimes that's all you can do. But that's a much different place, or that's a different place to be than any of that, and you're still getting hit by stuff. And I think it doesn't control reality, but it allows you to deal with that reality in a better way and with a better mindset and framework. Does that kind of make sense?
It definitely resonates. The chaos is still there. Absolutely, having a 2-year-old in the house, the chaos is there every single 5 minutes. So definitely can't control that. So yeah, this is the bit you can control, and doing that bit you can look after. Massively helps.
And I think something that you touched on when you did your post, and you said, so like, I know when we spoke, I guess the physical component, like, you know, your physical fitness wasn't actually high on your agenda. It was more addressing the mindset and the balance. But that is something that we've worked on. Can you speak to that and the impact that's had? Because I know that wasn't a quote unquote burning bridge for you, but we have made inroads into that, and I think it's been quite impactful for you. Like, what would you say to that?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, you're right. Right at the start, it wasn't the main reason for the course. Of course, it's something you're always aware of, and it's not something you always, because it's in the background. But it wasn't the main reason. It was a mindset thing more than anything. But I think I've said in my post, it's all connected, and as soon as you realise it's all connected, just the marginal gains you can have from that, I guess, are massive as well. So you kind of get in the habit. It just naturally happens. I wouldn't say I tried to lose weight. I've lost quite a bit in that period, but it wasn't something I necessarily set out to do. Yes, we did do stuff along the course that helped that, and certainly does. But just that whole mindset change didn't feel like a necessity, and now it's just the way I live my life. To be honest, it's not like something I'm trying to do differently. It's just the way I approach stuff. And when you realise it's all connected, you still have off days. You have the odd day along the program. I'd be lying to you if I didn't say you still have an odd day where you just feel like everything goes out the window for a day or two. But then you get back on it because you feel like you know what the reason is and you can control it, and then you don't necessarily get back on the wagon. I wouldn't say that to happen, but you end up naturally just drifting back to it because everything else starts to fall out of line again. You realise it's all connected, so you start those good habits again.
I think that's a really important one to highlight, and the fact that there is no wagon, it's your life, right? And I think what highlights that quite visually is you went away for Christmas, right? You had 2 weeks away in Dubai, and a lot of the habits, behaviours, the daily sort of things that we do in a normal day to day, you said, they weren't there. You did some stuff, but I'm using your words, I'd rather you say, but like, you were able to transition from a fun holiday back into a normal way of operating really, really nicely. It's not like, oh fuck, I'm back to like whatever again. You said you were surprised. You're like, oh, I want to get back to it. And I think that's what we want, is because you're creating a framework in your life that feels good. It's your life and you like the way that it is. It's not like, oh God, back on this crazy plan. It's like, there isn't a plan really. It's just your life, and being able to ebb and flow between those different states is really important, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember before that holiday, probably feeling a little bit apprehensive in some ways, thinking 3 or 4 weeks into the program, probably going to blow it here because I knew I was going with my brother-in-law, and that was going to result in visiting the hotel bar quite a bit every day. But yeah, not everything went out the window. Definitely relaxed, definitely enjoyed myself, which is what you should do on holiday. But as you said, the first day getting back in the UK was just like, right, let's crack on, let's get back on it. Everything fell back into the thing. There wasn't like a forced thing. It was almost like, excited to get back on it and looking forward to the calls and stuff. So
nice. And I think that what you said there, you don't really think about it, and it's just kind of happening on autopilot. Again, that's what we want. Like, I think it's good in life to have challenges in all sorts of areas, professionally, physically, whatever, because it's things that we want to work towards. But as your BAU, day-to-day, operational sort of just standards of how you live your life, you don't really want to be putting a load of thought and effort into it, and you want it to kind of happen autonomously, because then that gives you the headspace and freedom for the other stuff that's really important, right? And I think the fact that you're saying that that's happening autonomously is really important, because then it means it just is, versus, oh, I've got to think about this and I'm doing this, whatever. Because that's not necessarily a place you want to be, because that just adds more mental load to the very, very busy life that you've already got, right?
Yeah, it's just that awareness. I think that now you can also connect the things maybe why you're having a bad day, because you figure out, oh, I didn't do this in the morning, I didn't do that, and those things can't be helped sometimes. I mean, I do a job that travel around, get into the car early sometimes, and sometimes it can't happen because just life happens and it gets in the way. But you can maybe then also connect the reasons about why you're feeling like that, why you're feeling those things at the end of the day. I think, okay, I'm going to do something positive about it. I wouldn't say you need hours a day to do it as well. That's the key thing. That was probably my concern going into it, is I'm going to need to create 2 or 3 hours here to do something in the day. Isn't that at all? Just lots of little things throughout the day, which massively makes a massive impact. And everyone's got 20 minutes to do something. I was probably one of those that, I haven't got 20 minutes at the start of it. But you realise you've got 20 minutes. You waste 20 minutes all the time.
You can start with 5 minutes. Then you got 5, and then you can all of a sudden realise there is that time there to make, right?
Yeah, exactly that. And habits such as putting your phone down and things like that, simple things, make a massive difference. And now it just sits in different rooms. That's it. So.
Yeah, because that's the other thing. If you're practically, if your phone's there all the time, you're on it. You're like, oh, I haven't got any time. Spent 10 minutes doing that. Well, that was 10 minutes doing something. And there's the ego part of, well, 10 minutes of whatever it is we're talking about, it's not enough. Well, it's better than 0. and it's that kind of mindset. And what you said there about being able to reflect on what's happened, because we're not fucking robots. Things aren't always perfect. Things do impact us, and that's part of life. But being able to then join the dots yourself and go, well, that's why. Okay, well, I can do X differently tomorrow, or maybe I'll do that differently next time. Not just woe is me because of the universe. I think that's, again, a more empowered place to be, because you can be rational and work out why you may or may not have done something, or how you're feeling. You can understand the why behind it versus just being reactive to whatever's thrown at you.
Yeah, I think I'll say as well, without doing you down here, Luke, but none of it's rocket science as well. Some of the stuff you point out along the way. And that's probably at the end of on reflection, you look back on it and you think, well, that was pretty simple. But until those things are highlighted to you and you properly reflect, as a typical guy, you kind of arrogantly say, I can't do that, I can't do this. There's a reason I'm doing that. Until you have it pointed out to you, that's what you're doing wrong. You kind of self-reflect on those things, which are some of them are quite simple. That's you look back on it, you think, oh, why wasn't I doing that before? But of course, you couldn't see it at that point. So
yeah, and it's that narrative of, like some people say with art, right? By the way, I'm not drawing a parallel with himself as a famous artist, but like, is it Jackson Pollock? He's got the splats. I could have done that, yeah, but you didn't. So it's like it doesn't really matter, It's that's really simple. Yeah, it is, but did you do it? No. And I think, but a lot of the time we're just not consciously aware. And you're right. It isn't. A lot of it isn't rocket science, and it isn't crazy, and it shouldn't be. That's the point, I think. But until you can see it, and until you can also see what's holding you back and some of those blockers which you aren't visible, yeah, the solutions, that's relatively straightforward. But if you've got something in your way that you can't see, until you're able to identify that and remove that, you just keep butting against it, right? And it's putting those two pieces together. And I think once you take away the blocker, that can be psychological, practical, whatever, and then replace it with something which invariably is very, very straightforward, then it starts to work. Complicated craziness isn't going to last very long in my experience. So it needs to be simple so it can last, right?
Absolutely, yeah. And I'm more for rocket science. If it's rocket science, I'm probably failing. So simple stuff.
Me too. We won't be having this chat. Awesome. So final main question, Dan, because I think that's been really helpful and insightful there. So thank you. A couple of final questions. We've touched on a lot. What would you say if there's one thing, or what would you say is your kind of, having gone through the process now, what would you say is your key takeaway if there was one thing? What would be the key thing that you've learned that you take away from it?
I think just replacing the word with can't with can is probably a big one. Getting on with it and controlling your own destiny is the key thing. It's your life, you control it. So stop blaming other people. That's probably the biggest thing. And then get on with these things. But you need someone to help you with that. And that's the biggest thing I've taken away. It's not something I don't have lots of coaching and stuff like that. I haven't had lots of coaching in the past. But helping these things really does help. So.
Awesome. Thank you. And I 100% believe what you just said there. I think, yeah, it's turning the can'ts into cans. And there's also a thing, if you ever say to yourself, I can't, maybe you're saying I won't. It's not I can't. It's just, and I think like it's that same parallel. And you look at it with a deeper lens, that's it. But awesome. Well, I mean, Dan, thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate it. Hopefully anyone's watching has got a lot out of it. I have. It's been really insightful. I guess my final question to you, if anyone's watching this, like maybe you were a few months back, you've seen this, aware that you need to do something, but maybe you're on a bit on the fence, like you said, you've never had any coaching, you're like, what's all this about? What would you say to someone who's kind of knows they need to do something, but they're a bit unsure about, reaching out and asking for help?
I think if you're even on the fence, you're thinking about it, there's probably something underlying that. So, listen to what it is. Probably think about what you need to do about it, and just have a chat with your elite. That's the main thing. There was no pressure at the start, so it wasn't like we had to do it. It was just an open chat, and maybe realize some stuff. And then think about if it's the right process for you. That's the key thing. But I think just acknowledging it and saying do something about it rather than sit there and kind of acknowledge it, put it to the bottom of the do list, and just crack on with work because that's what you've been programmed to do. That isn't the right answer. I don't think certainly it wasn't for me anyway.
Awesome. Well, thank you. And look, the net result is where we are today, which is amazing. And so, The truth is, yes, there's a process, and I'm here to help. But like, as I say to everyone I work with, and you included, you're the one who does the work. Like you said, you're the author of your own destiny. And when you get put back in the driving seat of your life and you've got control, that feels fucking awesome, I would say. So well done, mate. It's been a pleasure to work with you, and thank you for your insights. Anyone watching, I hope you've got a lot out of this. If you're interested in having a conversation like Dan, you want to have a chat, drop me a message in the comments or find me a DM. Dan, it's been an absolute pleasure. You're a legend. You deserve all the success you've got. So thank you for your time. Have a great Thursday and take care, everyone. Cheers.
Cheers, thanks, Lee.